Hello there. This is Kathy Roosevelt Jonas, licensed clinical social worker
And Heather Shelton, retired nurse.
from Epic Healing Eugene and Radiant Heart Consulting. And this is our long awaited integration video. So we have some questions that we are going to cover about integration. And this is psychedelic integration. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah. Well, so my first big question for you,
Yes.
Kathy, is what is integration?
Ooh. So, integration, a good way to start thinking about this is actually in our life. We have many, many experiences, and sometimes it takes a while to figure out what those experiences are. And sometimes we might understand what an experience is, but sometimes it takes time to figure out it, or something that happened a long time ago that maybe is a powerful experience, or maybe it was something that triggered a lot of insights and personal growth for yourself. For psychedelics, integration becomes even more important because the time in a psychedelic space is actually fairly short, yet the time after is very long. So the more that we can figure out ways of bringing gems of insights that might have happened during the psychedelic experience into daily life, that is part of the integration process.
So it sounds really important.
It is important. Actually, it's so important. It's probably the most important thing about having a psychedelic experience, because what happens in a psychedelic experience is most everybody has lots of times of expansion. That there might be a time of feeling blissful, of understanding things on a level that you didn't understand before, being inspired in your life, feeling healed in a way that maybe has been really achy, and you get some resolution about that. Or else it can be some times of contraction, like feeling really sad and emotional, and maybe a variety of experiences as you're working through memories, past traumas, things that might come up during your psychedelic experience. So it might not be all expansive, but to make sense and meaning of what happened in the psychedelic experience and how it actually applies to life is really important.
Yeah, it's where the real true work and healing and transformation comes from.
And it does take time to actually prepare for a psychedelic experience, and we've made some videos about that. We won't spend too much time, but we might weave into a little bit about the importance of preparation. Do you want to just maybe hit upon a few little things about preparation first?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we say kind of in the field, I guess, is that integration begins in preparation. And so, that's when we begin to talk about change, and something that is really important to talk about is your readiness for change, right? Most people who are feeling ready for a psychedelic experience are ready to have some type of a shift in their life. Or an exploration or growth. I mean, there's lots of reasons that people want to have a psychedelic experience, but often, I'd say more often than not, there's something that we're ready to change. We're ready for a shift. We might not even know what that is, but that readiness for change is really important, because then we have these big experiences, and thank you for describing integration so beautifully, because I like to think that it's the integration piece is when we take that information we received or that experience that we had, and we figure out how can I make changes in my life to align with what I've learned, right?
Yeah.
And change doesn't happen overnight either.
Right.
I mean, it can take a long time. 30 days, they say, to create a new habit, right?
Right.
So change is not immediate. And I think that's an important thing to say about
Mm-hmm.
integration too, is that, you know, for some time, some experiences are really big and we come out just refreshed and we know we've learned some things, and, you know, but often we have big experiences and there's a lot that happened and we're not really sure what to do with all of that, or what does that actually mean for me in my life, or why was that part of my experience. And truly that comes over time.
Right.
You know, it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be a couple months before you really understand what that
It can actually be
message
years.
was. Yeah. Years for
it-
some.
Yeah, it can be years, especially on some powerful experiences and making sense about them. I think that you brought up a really good point about the readiness for change, and part of integration and keeping the momentum of maybe those insights that came up, and the motivation to maybe have a lifestyle change, is there has to be a desire to maintain change.
Yeah.
And that is something that can really be explored. And there's some different ways of exploring readiness for change. And part of that very trendy modality is called internal family systems therapy. Now, you don't need to go and find a therapist that specializes in IFS, but some of the principles about that is to just take a little bit of time to explore whether there's a part of you that might feel afraid of change, or a part of you that might feel resistance to change, even though you want to change or you want to improve your life, but there might be a part of you that's holding back. And so the more in preparation, and also maybe even in your psychedelic experience, you might get to know these parts of you that have kind of been dragging you down, kind of holding you back. And often it's to keep you safe. You know, they have their function, but they might have outweighed, or, you know, their function is
They outlived
they
their
outlived.
necessity, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's part of the kind of deep introspection part, is to get to know those parts of yourself. And then as you go through the integration process, is to take a look again at those parts of yourself and see if those are now ready to kind of like loosen up, and for you to have some new ways of continuing in your life. And maybe you don't need all those ways that have shored you up and protected you.
Yeah. Well, I have an interesting question for you, Kathy. It is true that occasionally, I'm going to say kind of rare, that someone would not have any psychedelic experience. I think what happens more often is that maybe even folks have unanticipated expectations. But if someone has an experience, it just doesn't feel like it was like much happened for them.
Right.
How do you address that in integration?
Yeah, I think that actually can be common for different people to different degrees. Part of that has to do with the expectations about whether an experience, a psychedelic experience, especially with psilocybin, was visual. Because if you didn't see something, if you didn't have a big altered state of consciousness, which sometimes for people that are on a deep mindfulness practice, like a path of doing a lot of meditation, there might not be a big change of consciousness. So that's something. It's like, is it going to be a big shift that you experience within the psychedelic experience? Maybe, maybe not. The I'd say, I don't know what the percentage of it, but I know it is true for me and it's true for several other people that I personally know, is that on psilocybin there might be some fractals and stuff, initially or different times, but there's no visuals. The visuals are more of like an inner light show of kind of knowing, seeing what through knowing and through the experience of emotions that you are having, whether it's like you're remembering different memories and you feel sad about that, or you feel some nausea about a certain memory that's coming up. So it's very unique on the psychedelic experience to begin with. Do you have things to add to that, Heather?
Yeah, I mean, a really big question that I like to bring to people when they feel kind of disappointed in their journey is, well, let's just contemplate why that was your experience. And really to kind of take a step back, and instead of having it be an emotional, well, I'm very disappointed and this turned out that way, well, let's take a step back and maybe be curious about why this was your experience. And not that anyone's done anything wrong,
Right.
but it may be that there's, that part of the message or the understanding or the teaching from the psilocybin is maybe related to why the experience wasn't so profound for them in the moment. So
right, or seemingly that it wasn't
that's
profound.
what we should say. Yeah.
Yeah, because it can be still profound. Of course, just on a side note, there are kind of a dampening effect that some people can experience that are on a lot of antidepressants, and that doesn't mean that there's still not a psychological and emotional benefit that they've found in research, but it can be a dulling of the subjective effect of these psychedelics. But back to what you were saying about those kind of the hidden, like maybe it's a more of a subtle experience that has to play out over time. I had a couple different clients that had big physical experiences, and so it was through nausea, having to use the bathroom, feeling really restless in their body, and are feeling really cold. There's a lot of different things. But what turned out to be one of the most profound things that they said later is that they were an individual that is used to having everything, like controlling everything, and having everything the way that they needed to have things in their life to make sure that they were managing it. And one of the most profound experiences for the people that I'm thinking about was actually being taken care of and allowing themselves to being taken care of, which had a whole nurturing component and very healing component to a part of themselves that really needed that. And so that's what manifested in their experience, which at that time didn't seem important, but in hindsight, when they were able to talk about it in integration, that really was coming out.
Yeah, and I think it's a reframing of how we're looking at things, which is really a huge gift of psilocybin, is that it allows us a new perspective, a shift in perspective, maybe to take a step back and look at things in a new way. And integration, that's what we as facilitators and supporting people in integration try to do, is to just maybe reframe the question.
Right.
Or let's try looking at it from this perspective and see if something else comes up for you. So really, like, some self-inquiry and curiosity. That's a word we use a lot in psychedelic work. It's just the best word, really. It's about curiosity, and curiosity is fun and can be full of wonder. And if we're really approaching curiosity, it just allows us to open up and look at things in a little different way. And
Right.
And so we do try to continue that into integration after the experience of
Yeah.
being curious about what came
And I
up.
think that curiosity, that whole that term, and is so important during the psychedelic experience itself. Like
Definitely.
one theme that sometimes will come up for people is a deep feeling or grief around the belief that they're doing something wrong. They're not doing the psychedelic experience the right way. See, I never do anything right. No, this is always happens to me. And if a person's able to have curiosity during that moment, then they're able to maybe think about, when else have I felt this way? When's the earlier time that I felt this way? Oh, this is old stuff. And so there's a lot of healing potentially in even these small little moments of maybe feeling like you're not doing the psychedelic experience correctly, or that you didn't do it right, that you find a way of healing some old wounds.
Yeah. And it is true. I'm going to highlight it once again, which is really what our topic is here, which is that we don't always have all of our answers. You know, like, we have these big experiences. I know that my last big experience, I went home with all kinds of insights and thoughts and visions, but not necessarily a landing site for all of them yet. And it takes time, and I'm still working through and paying attention to the little things and making some changes in the way that I approach things in life. And so it feels important to me that always the folks I work with know that this was the big experience part, and the integration comes. So to be very kind of forgiving of ourselves, because I think that a lot of us have expectations that, oh, well, I was supposed to heal everything in that journey.
Right.
Number one, healing always takes time, and certainly lots and lots of things can heal, and things can happen in these experiences. And also we can go home wondering what the heck happened. And over a couple of days, suddenly we can have some new awareness. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks. I had a very powerful psilocybin experience years ago, and I did my integration, and I felt like it had all made sense. And then my dad died a year later after that session. And when he died, I realized that psilocybin journey had been preparing me for that.
Oh.
And which was totally not anything I thought about before. And so it was a whole year later. And so it just really is like, psilocybin gives us, I think, just an opportunity to walk through our life and decide to make some changes and look at things differently. And it doesn't have to be all just the experience. It is what we do with the experience, I
Right.
guess. Yeah.
So some of the techniques that we often advise, or like strategies, is one thing I do after people have finished their experience during the day with us, which is a full day experience. And we've, of course, have offered preparation. We have an integration program. We have all kinds of things over here that we are offering. But is that I keep notes of their session, and most all of our facilitators will keep notes. But at the very end, I will ask the client for their 5 takeaways. So they have something written down. These are notes that are given to them. They have something written down that they at least have the 5 takeaways that were really fresh in their mind at that moment, just fresh out. And because they're really easy to forget if you don't write them down, or you have some way, or make a little recording or some way, because life contracts. So we have these big expansive experiences. We had those 5 gems that we knew clearly, those 5 things or those 10 things that we were able to rattle off, that those insights. But when going back to life, when life is full of its normal challenges and
Extra
stuff, and the
stressors.
stress, and or you just got busy and didn't write them down, and now you're back into the throes of work or whatever, and then you can think that actually nothing happened during your psychedelic experience because you can't remember anything. So that's why it's really helpful to do some journaling. And also, this is part of that kind of inner motivation to sustain change and growth. And this is a gift that you give yourself, is that to support your own healing, that you're able to go back and look at some notes.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you said it's a gift to yourself, because that, creating those practices, as much as they do, you do have to kind of set some time aside, but you're choosing yourself.
Yeah.
Again, we're like choosing ourselves, and that's so important in the health of everything, I believe. Like, to work on our own selves and to give ourselves, the more we actually take care of ourselves, it's empowering, and we feel better, and we are then like providing ourselves with healing. We are brilliant, like magical miracle beings. We have a lot of gifts, we have a lot of tools, and
we have an ability to heal ourselves.
We do.
Even though the wounds may be very deep, if there is a gentle desire for healing, that's all it takes, is for that healing to get going, to take hold. And so some other things that we do over here is that we like to give some kind of touchstone. Literally, in this case, we have stones.
Actual stone.
We have stones, and these are something that we have people choose. We have cute little bags and stuff after their session, that there might be a stone that has like a certain angle or texture, and something to help them remember their journey. And so then they will take these stones home and have them maybe by their computer or by their bedside or wherever they're going to have them. And they can see these stones and remember those little gems of insights, like something empowered about that stone. I'm going to remember from this stone that I actually felt a strong alignment in myself. Or when the skylight, there was a light that came through the skylight at that right moment when I was opening up my heart. And I want to remember that, and I'm going to hold on to that stone, and that stone now carries that light for me because I'm going to remember it.
Yeah. I also find I love nature as an integration tool. Just spending time in nature. We are nature. There's never judgment in nature. It can be a very relaxing environment for us to be in physiologically. Our blood pressure goes down and our heart rate goes down when we're in natural spaces that involve trees and smells. And so I like to encourage people to do that. Also, you mentioned journaling, and I actually have a little handout I give folks, but I encourage that journaling if you're able, on the first night after your experience, just to stream of consciousness, everything you can think of the day, just to get it onto the paper. Because like you said, as we get farther away from experiences, we tend to start to forget details. And so that's just another little tidbit. And I also love that journaling at night, because it, for me at least, and maybe other people, it gets all of the thoughts out of my head, and then I have a much better sleep.
Nice.
Yeah, so
nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So some of the other techniques that, just to kind of keep things alive, is there might have been certain music that you heard during your psilocybin experience, and so we make note of the playlist that was playing or different things like that. And if that can sometimes help a person come back to experience seeing the good things that they want to do, or even helping them journal. Journal enough, put on the music so then they can start remembering things as they write. And
and sometimes remembering is feelings,
the body.
And the truth also about these experiences is they're very hard to put into words.
Yes.
And so we're saying journal, 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 and that's an interesting part of how do we describe these felt and known experiences is very challenging.
And it might be your journal is a doodle. It
Or
might
a
be
picture,
a picture,
absolutely.
or you might find a picture as you're kind of looking through a book or even on the internet that suddenly, oh my gosh, that is close to what I saw. And to know that you don't have to put it all in words, but the main just about this is that you are honoring that you actually took a journey and something happened and you want to bring those treasures into your daily life.
Is it okay if I give a little plug about what we offer for
Sure.
integration at Epic? Because I feel that it's one of the greatest services that we offer in our work. Is that we offer private integration. Every client has 2 private integration sessions with their facilitator after, and then we have twice a month ongoing integration groups for all of our Epic alumni, which are folks who've had an experience at Epic. And the groups have been so amazing. We love going to group because it's such a sweet community and people are supporting one another. We're always learning, all of us, everyone in the room learns, and we do this, it's ongoing. So when someone has an experience here, they can come to integration group forever because we really feel, we know
no
that
charge.
it is so important.
It's just part of what we offer. Of course, there's 3 hours of individual preparation as well, and then as well as the integration. And then we also offer 4 different personal growth groups a month, different themes, again for free, just supporting people's personal growth and integration. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that these were helpful tips on integration. Take good care.